Hello and welcome. With the mining Indaba recently behind us, we look at the alternative mining Indaba and its community development goals. I'm Nozi Pombandra and this is Resource Watch. Here's a look at stories making headlines in the sector this week.
Sibanye Gold is considering building a 3 billion rand solar power plant in response to higher electricity costs and current constraints in South Africa. It's also looking at the feasibility of a coal-fired plant. The group has reported a 60% decline in second half headline earnings per share because of impairments to some operations, investments in a refinery, as well as an additional tax payment. Petrochemicals group Sasol says it will cut its dividend to save cash in the face of falling oil prices. This sent the company's shares sliding over 10%. Sasol is changing its progressive dividend policy, giving it the flexibility to pay lower dividends rather than maintaining or growing them.
The gaping chasm between miners and communities were evident again recently with the two parallel mining Indabas being held in the city of Cape Town. This week, we're talking to Hassan Logat, who works with research and advocacy in the Benchmark Foundation and who's also on the resolution committee of the alternative mining Indaba. Thank you so much for making the time to join us.
Thank you for having me.
Put it into perspective. What is the alternative mining Indaba and what are you offering that the traditional mining Indaba is not?
Over 4 years ago, where we had 40 odd people, now we've got about 700 participants from mainly Africa and all over the world coming there to look for real alternatives that are inclusive in the development of our country. What you find in the official mining Indaba is a number of investors who come, talk about where they can get good deals, minimize risk, but the one risk they ignore is involving the people centrally in their own futures.
So the word you've used is inclusivity. Let's talk about the kind of participants that you're drawing. Where are they from? So let's talk about your reach, but also in addition to investors, if that voice is present, who else is around the table?
Well, we represent poor communities and I work for a faith-based organization. A number of church leaders come from Malawi, Zimbabwe, all over Africa, even Madagascar we have some people now. We have some international guests from Sweden, Norway. We had Colombian mine people coming there, workers, trying to draw connections and lessons from us. What is it that we are there about? Our concern, as you pick up, is that we're concerned that when the government sits down with international investors, they leave out the people who can make sure that business and mining is sustainable. So when we say alternative, we look for alternatives even to the way that mining is done. In fact, it's largely extractive. They take it goes out of the country. The road that leads them to the Richards Bay one, that's the one that's tarred. And the communities don't have decent facilities. That's unsustainable.
So Hassan, if you could put in 3 points, the key advocacy points that the alternative mining Indaba is addressing, what were you talking about, top of your agenda, parallel to the official mining Indaba?
Well, the one was the issue of fundamental democracy, that we were unhappy that they continue to charge $1,000 and the subject matter of their conference is not about us but about the minerals. Sustainability can't be without that. But let me just state, after Marikana, the government set up a Lekgotla. Again there it excludes mining communities. It has business, labor, and the social and labor plans, for example, also excludes us. It's about us, about communities we work with, but excludes them. So it says there'll be a tab there and it's secret from us. So that whole strand, one big strand was about inclusivity. Right. The other one is about the illicit financial flows. You know from the Marikana, the Farlam Commission, we call it Marikana Commission, a number of dealings that we thought were dubious emerged in the airing of it. Whether the report will reach public ears and eyes is another issue. But it is significant that Lonmin there said it stopped doing this commissions and sale things, the kind of details that SARS will have to investigate, you know. So that is one of our concerns as well.
That's a big issue in the African context broadly, and no doubt you're going to need a lot of financial muscle as well to take this fight forward. Who's supporting the alternative mining Indaba?
Well, a number of different donors. We get money from church organizations. So other churches in the world give money So it's essentially your tithe. But others get from fraternal donors, Norwegian Church Aid, etc. We are positive now that Thabo Mbeki's own report on focusing on how much money Africa loses is actually on the table of the African Union. But as you rightfully point out, these things happen beyond the radar. You don't see them. So what we really need is laws that are international, right, across the borders, African-wide. UNECA and others must get the capacity to make sure there's automatic exchange of information amongst us. So clearly these kind of arrangements must be held on an Africa-wide basis and international.
Do you have confidence in the African Union to deliver on that particular proposal?
The African Union is all we have. You know, it's our countries. We have a little bit more influence over our leaders, bad or good, because we have a voice in electing them. Whereas what we find often, corporations are governed by another mentality. They should be subject to shareholders. But it seems that when the money is there, show me the money, there's a new god that comes in where people tend to look at the profit and relations between people. The reasons why we do business gets lost.
And of course, one of the key issues that has always been at the top of your agenda is greater responsibility by the mining houses towards the communities within which they operate. Are we seeing some progress as the spotlight continues to shine on mining houses and really beginning to reflect the kind of relationship that they should be having on the ground?
Sadly, I say no. We've yet to find a positive example of where mining has benefited people. A local community where I work in Mokgobading, people were relocated. They were subsistent living. They had their own cattle, etc. They were offered bigger homes, right? But they were replaced into a township type living. But the homes are all cracked. Termites are eating it. And the experiences are repeated across the continent, because it's the nature of mining that these homes are unstable.
But what about the local leaders? Surely they should be there to hold these mining houses accountable when the byproducts of what they've put down as their corporate social responsibility fail to live up to the standard.
But that social responsibility is part of the social and labor plan. They say, if you give us rights to mine, we will build so many houses. Lonmin promised between 5,000 and 3,000. If the money came from Rand Merchant Bank, they would be building 5,000 homes. We heard in the Marikana Commission, Cyril Ramaphosa was sitting in his chair as the head of transformation for Lonmin and discovered that they only built 3 homes. I don't know what meetings he was chairing or if the meetings were sitting. So these are the kind of problems. The things that the more information we have and the more inclusion we have, the chances towards a more just solution are greater.
Just 2 examples that I want to use maybe as in the way of playing devil's advocate. A similar conversation with the representative from the Royal Bafokeng attests to the fact that they're not only building homes, they're building entire communities for the people that live in those geographic areas. In the same vein, speaking to the CEO of Kumba, I know he talks about massive upskilling programs that these mining houses are running to empower their workers. Where is the real picture? Because I'm getting a sense that nothing is being done from the one perspective to quite a significant amount is being done.
Yeah, but you see, when things get done, they get done for people. Various good development practitioners tell you that you don't do things for people, you do things with people. It's the first mistake that they make. We had Impala Platinum leaders coming to speak to us at our annual meeting, and they had acknowledged that even the Royal Bafokeng that you talk about have a land claim against them. Because we've got title holders, communities who say we were excluded, and the coterie, the smaller number of people who are reaping the benefits. It seems that the types of capitalism that is dominant in the world now is one that eats up everyone else. Now,
we've touched on the issue of leadership, and recently Gracia Machel was also she took to the podium at the Mining Indaba, and she spoke about how advocacy groups like your own need to fight more smartly. Now, taking some of that and reflecting on it, how are you taking the fight forward? How are you going to be fighting more smartly?
The truth is, we speak about actually existing mining. People talk about the scars, the illnesses, the diseases that they've experienced. So there is an issue of redress, because what's happened, the promise is everything will happen great for all of us. The community I spoke to you about is 7 hours away from here. No one knows about them, but they have become impoverished. The wealth that they were promised doesn't come through. So we need to deal with that. You know, and then what they need to do is also go easy. Go a bit easy on this issue. People must have the right to choose alternatives to mining. This is Tolobani community in Pondoland wanted to choose tourism rather than that. But it seems that our government, you know, are obsessed that mining is a silver bullet. Yes, it looks good in the GDP, but the GDP is not the only criteria for development.
Hassan, thank you so much for making the time to join us. And there you have it, an alternative view offered by Hassan Logart, who works with research and advocacy in the Benchmark Foundation and is also on the resolution committee of the Alternative Mining Indaba. And here's our gem of the week.
Mining in South Africa is traditionally based on the migrant labour system. It resulted in miners living far from their families, in hostels and informal housing. In today's Gem of the Week, we look at how RBP is taking steps to counter the legacy of the migrant labour system. First-time homeowner Godfrey Mosakale is excited about furnishing his new home. Mosakale was one of the first batch of 422 Royal Bafokeng Platinum miners who got houses as part of the company's employee home ownership scheme.
It's a great pleasure for me and my family to have this house. My plans for this house is to see that in future my children are going to get a better life and then get a better future.
Every permanent employee will eventually be allocated a house through a loan at an interest rate which will be lower than traditional banks. The loan repayment includes the employee's living out allowance plus an additional portion of no more than 12% of their salaries. This arrangement will see the lowest paid workers paying monthly installments of just under 3,000 Rand for a 500,000 Rand bond.
A unit like this one is what a miner in the lowest level employee category would occupy. As you can see, it's got an open plan lounge and kitchen, a bathroom with a built-in tub and toilet, and 3 bedrooms.
The project stems from the 2011 wage negotiations, where stakeholders agreed to incorporate housing as part of the wage strategy. A housing investigation committee comprising of management and the union was established.
We want us to incorporate housing in the wage strategy, and we included the housing, and that resulted in establishing a housing investigative committee comprising management as well as the unions. We looked at various models, we looked at various areas, we spoke to various consultants until we came to this place here.
The National Union of Mine Workers, the majority union at Royal Bafokeng, says this is the first step to restoring dignity to workers in South Africa's mining industry. Phase 2 will be complete in 2019. Christine Mundwa, CNBC Africa, Rustenburg.
Well, that's it for this week's show. Do stay in touch, talking to me at Nozi Pumbandra, and don't forget our hashtag is ResourceWatch. Until next time, it's goodbye.